I think the idea of taking or prescribing herbs to nourish the body, to tonify the body for illness and disease is perhaps the greatest misunderstanding of herbal medicine. Because regardless of what it is, even though a person can have exhaustion, tiredness, like a type of consumption or taxation pattern, there is still some type of obstruction in the body, some type of structure or disease toxin inhibiting a natural function. And it's the role of a herbalist and any medical doctor is to restore that natural function for the body to regenerate the blood and body fluids, regenerate the energy, but not by tonifying or using nourishing methods with herbs, because herbs have a toxic nature. Remember that. Every herb has a certain action reaction. It has a flavor which creates a function. The functions are identified by its primary indications and its secondary indications. There is no presentation where you think you can regenerate energy, nourish the blood, the yin, the yang, the essence. There is no circumstance where you should be doing that. It's a misunderstanding of how to correctly identify what function or structure is inhibited in the body and what herbs are required to restore that function. Because you cannot control an illness or disease. Remember that. You can't control the body. The body's always just telling you a story, and it's your role to understand the story to prescribe the certain herbs. So you can't prescribe or self-prescribe herbs thinking that you can nourish or tonify something and try and control an illness or disease, a sign or a symptom. Because in herbal medicine, it's never about the addition. It's never adding something to the body. In any disease state, there's always an obstruction. So there's always something you have to identify and remove, because it's this obstruction in the body that's inhibiting a natural function. So don't think that you need to add something to tonify and nourish something. It's about removing something, bringing the body back to zero, back to a stillness state, back to this empty state, a silent state. Just so basically that darkness is cleared and that light is restored. That is what it means to clear an obstruction and restore natural function. Because as soon as that obstruction is gone, the body knows how to regenerate energy and blood and body fluids. It doesn't need the herbs to do that. It needs you to prescribe the correct herbal structures to restore a natural function. And then you use foods and nutrition to regenerate blood and body fluids, and that is where food and nutrition is involved. But herbs are not like food and nutrition. They're not supplements, they're toxins, and the toxins need to be identified and prescribed correctly. And as soon as you do that, this is where restoration follows. This is where you're restoring a natural function, and the body by itself will regenerate the energy, the blood, the body fluids. Because if you start to prescribe herbs to try and nourish and tonify something, you can actually bury the pattern. You can actually muffle the signs and symptoms. So even though you think they're getting better, you're not actually identifying the real pattern, the real problem, the cause of the problem. You can actually just smother it and put it out, and then the signs and symptoms just start to disappear, but then the obstruction, the toxin, it goes deeper, it goes dormant in the body, it hibernates, and then it presents with a worse story, with worse signs and symptoms. And it's such a misunderstanding to prescribe herbs like that, because that is basically what you're doing. You're burying a pattern. And a pattern, signs and symptoms, is a key way to identify why the body is manifesting these disease names. Because herbs, they move obstructions, they clear obstructions, they restore a natural function. Don't think that you can use ginseng, like renshen, to tonify the energy, or dangwei and jiaoke root to nourish the blood, or shendi huang to build the jing or the yin in the body. It's such a misunderstanding, because with renshen ginseng, it's always identified with a non-responsive sphere in the upper epigastrium, which inhibits the movement of warm blood from the heart to the small intestine, which slows the metabolism down, which basically affects the body's ability to separate foods and fluids properly, to generate blood and body fluids, to build energy by itself. And jiaoke root, to nourish the blood, it's always identified with a contraction into that lower quadrant on the right, which inhibits the movement of blood into the small intestine, which again affects the small intestine's role to separate foods and fluids properly, to generate and nourish the blood. And shengdi huang, so shengdi huang has two primary indications. It can have large abdominal distension with dry skin, where the surface dries and hardens and the body cannot metabolize and absorb moisture properly, so the body dries out and hardens. It has an upright chevron contraction in the lower pelvis, which can inhibit the movements of fluids. But both obstructions and structures in the abdominal will inhibit a natural function, which enables the body to actually correctly build and nourish the blood and body fluids, the yin, the substance in the body. the functional fluids in the body. So with all these herbs that are thought to build the energy, the blood, the yin, the essence, you're not prescribing them for those nourishing, tonifying reasons. You're prescribing them because there's a structure that's inhibiting a natural function. As soon as those structures resolve, a natural function restores. All those substances come up by themselves. Energy comes up by itself. So herbs are just used to move, redirect, and disinhibit obstructions in the body, resolve structures, restore natural function. And then all these concerns that you have, where there's some type of exhaustion or taxation or consumption pattern, they all come back by themselves. Once you restore natural function, the body knows how to regenerate that blood and body fluids again.